Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news as the Qatar bid to buy Manchester United is described by some as unstoppable. This unstoppable force, this unstoppable relentless obsession to buy Manchester United in this crucial week. What does that mean for us? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it an unknown thing? We'll also be talking about links to David Beckham, whether he could be involved, whether any other ex-players could be involved. Is there a chance that we could be bought by somebody else? What this means for Manchester United, the bigger picture and what we actually know. Also, some interesting stuff coming out this morning that the new owners, if it was Qatar, wouldn't be looking to make big changes to the board or recruitment straight away. They'd be looking to give everybody another chance. I mean, I think that's a crap way to run a business, to be honest. To me, that evidence is somebody who hasn't got a bloody clue what the club... I want somebody to buy this football club who knows what's been going on for the last 10 years. I don't want somebody to buy it because it's Manchester United. I'm buying Manchester United. Let's give everybody a chance. I mean, I just think... Look, we're not going to have any say in this, but we are all going to have a say. And my say straight away is going to be, I don't want people buying the club who come in and go, everybody can have another chance. It exposes you straight away as somebody that's not right for the club because you haven't been keeping your eye on the club for the last 5 to 10 years. If I was a multi-billionaire and I was buying Manchester United from the Middle East or America or even the UK, I know what's been going on at this football club and I know what I'm going to do from day one. It's a clear out from everybody above Ten Hag. I'm clearing you out, you're gone in relation to recruitment and the board because I know it's been run badly. I'm not going to walk in and go, how are we all doing? Let's see how it works. It just shows a naivety. And you can all go oil me up and you can all go Sir Jim and you can all go give me this, give me that. But it's a Hansel and Gretel situation. Have you ever seen they did make a film out of it. It's a fairy tale, right? Hansel and Gretel. The parents don't want them anymore because they can't afford to keep them. So they throw them in the forest. And they're in the forest and they're walking around in the woods and the trees and they see this lovely gingerbread house with, lollipop lights and it looks absolutely delicious. And this good-looking woman opens the door and says, "Come in, children. I'll look after you." They walk straight in. The door slams shut. The attractive woman turns into a witch and basically fattens them up to eat them. And depending which version you want to watch, I think they do escape. I think a wood chopper comes in and chops the witch to bits, or they get eaten. One of the two. But my point is, it is a little bit like a Hansel and Gretel situation because I see people going, oil me up, or I want Sir Jim, and I'm, like they're opening the door saying, come in, and everyone's going, yeah, yeah, and then when that door slams shut, how are you going to get out if it's the wrong scenario? I think there's just so much that is exciting but also nervy as we approach this crucial next couple of weeks where the bids will go in for Manchester United. I mean, look, there's even talk about Elon Musk, which I don't think is true. But look, let's get into some of the headlines and obviously we can assess it. I'll tell you what I will say straight away as well is the Qatar bids, which is we're going to talk about first of all. I'm not being a spoiler while I am. I'm actually just being a realist. I'm actually just being somebody that is not going to be a complete buffoon, in my opinion, and start championing something you've got absolutely no idea what's behind it or what's going to happen. And I mean something in the general sense. That means anything. This is not about Qatar. It's not about Sir Jim Ratcliffe. It's not about any of the bids. I don't understand how any United fan can start getting excited about a bid they've got no idea about what it involves. What if somebody wants to buy us to take us in the Super League? What if somebody wants to buy us to sell us in 5 years? It's exciting, but it's nervy as well. And I think people have the right to choose whichever path they want to go down. But I think you've got to respect other people's concerns and excitement as much as you have, whatever opinion you have. I mean, look, straight away, can I just say, I said last week that the Sir Jim Ratcliffe bid worried me because, we're hearing about JP Morgan, who were going to fund the Super League. So those sort of things worry me. But look, I read something today, very, very good point. If Manchester United... Well, look, let me just put some headlines up because this sort of will back up what I'm going to say here. So this came in last night from The Telegraph, saying that a bid from the Qatar Investment Authority to buy Manchester United in its entirety is expected to come by the end of the week. And that the Qatar Investment Authority are confident of winning the race. But this is the interesting thing that from this journalist as well, and this is what I wanted to talk about this morning. The Qatar Investment Authority is in theory a separate entity from Qatar Sports Investment, which owns PSG. But Qatar Sports Investment and Qatar Investment Authority reportedly share one board member, and ultimately both are answerable to the Emir, which is Al Thani. I know, and I've said this, that we need to be owned by somebody who is... We'll talk about Beckham in a minute. I know we need to be owned by somebody or some entity that is very, very rich, because that's the way football's going. And that's very sad, but it's true. Football's gone that way. Manchester United need to be owned by people who are going to build the stadium and build the club. But does that not set off a little bit of an alarm bell in relation to... not sports washing. I can explain what sports washing is. I know some people mention that quite a lot in relation to the Middle East. I don't think some people understand what sports washing means. Well, I'll talk about that in a minute, but that's not what I'm talking about here. Does that not worry you in relation to the integrity of the sport? Oh yeah, we're completely separate. We're completely separate. You know, they're that and they're that. Yeah, we're completely separate. How comfortable would you be if the Qatar Sports Investment Fund owned Liverpool and the Qatar Investment Authority owned Manchester United? And tell me what the difference is between Manchester United and PSG being owned by those two people. For me, there's a big alarm bell here. The integrity of football and the integrity of ownership when, let's be honest, they are two... It's a bit like the Red Bull Group and Salzburg and Leipzig. Salzburg is a feeder club to Leipzig. There, I've said it. It's just happened with Sesko, it's happened with other players. They're a feeder club. If PSG and Manchester United are owned by Qatar, what happens if Man United and PSG want Bellingham? Oh well, last year you got Tchouameni, so it's PSG's turn to get Bellingham. It just doesn't. That I think that's a major concern. The integrity when you basically know the same people. You can separate the companies. You can separate the companies, you can separate the investments, and UEFA can sign it off because PSG backed them in the Super League race, and they obviously think Man United will as well. But let's be clear, there is a bit of an issue here. Now, it might not be an issue to some of you, but it might be an issue to some people. And I think that relationship is, let's be honest, PSG and Man United are going to become very, very close. And I can't sit here I can't be a hypocrite. I never want PSG to win the Champions League. I've said that publicly for the last however many years. I don't want them to win the Champions League because they're basically doing it with a cheat code. Now, football's going to change and Man United are going to move into that category if we get bought as well. That's a different conversation. But PSG and Man United are going to be very, very close if we get bought by Qatar, because ultimately it is the same powerful people in Qatar who are going to be involved in both. On paper it will say they're not, but the reality is they will be answerable to the same people. So it's an interesting one. But what I was told, I haven't been lit. I didn't go live with you yesterday, did I? I've been live on That's Football doing the Super Bowl and stuff. Believe it or not, I don't even know if I believe it, but on Sunday afternoon, two separate people contacted me and says basically, if UEFA give the go-ahead to Qatar, Qatar will own Manchester United. That's a very strong rumour going around the industry. So it's almost becoming a bit of an unstoppable outcome anyway. Whether you're excited about it, whether you're concerned about it, whether you're unsure about it, it's basically unstoppable. That's what many people are saying. Can you please offer my brother Josh a happy Scooby-Doo birthday, says Nathan. Happy birthday to Josh, Scooby-Doo. Welcome to the Members Club, Johan. There are a couple of updates to bring you as well, just in relation to from the papers this morning about all of this. And of course, it dominates the news. The Qatar bid for Man United has the support of Sheikh Tamim bin Ahmed Al Thani, who is the Emir of Qatar, who is also said to be a United supporter. That's coming in from TalkSport. And the Qatar Investment Authority are confident of winning the race. Look, they're not. I mean, there's an article coming out this morning basically saying they're not in the race to lose. And I don't think they will lose because they've got big wealth. But this was also interesting from Mike Keegan, who in fairness has ran the story around this very, very well over the last week. What he's saying is, welcome to Members Club, Ultimate TNT. Coca-Cola and Pepsi have the same ultimate shareholders mark and so many competing organisations. We need to wake up and smell the coffee, says Div. Div, look, I've got absolutely no problem with you saying that, but you're being a bit of a dictator. You are being a bit of a dictator. And Jay, I'm sorry, I'm not having words like Islamophobe in here because nobody's being an Islamophobe. We're talking about two entities owned by the same group owning two big football clubs. That's not Islamophobic, mate. It's offensive to Islam to start saying stuff like that. So grow the fuck up and piss off. That nobody's talking about those sort of things this morning, and nobody's going to be talking about those sort of things, and nobody's ever spoken about those sort of things, certainly on this channel. So if that's your story, piss off, basically, because you're just ruining what is actually a grown-up conversation about the future of a football institution that only last week we were, remembering the Busby Babes, which actually is what this football club's all about. Some people are uncomfortable with this great football club and its history just becoming a cheat code. Some people are uncomfortable with that. Some people absolutely love it. They're like, I can't wait for us to be able to buy everything we want. Some people are not comfortable with that. Some people think, that this is just football with a cheat code and we don't want that. It's a conversation. It's not Islamophobic. It's a conversation because it could be a billionaire like Elon Musk who comes in with the cheat code. It's not exclusive to the Middle East. There are billionaires that could buy. Apple could buy the football club and turn it into a cheat code. So it's a conversation. And if you don't like those conversations and you just want to go and walk through the forest and find Hansel and Gretel's house, then go and do it. If you want to wake up and smell the coffee yourself and actually have a conversation about the pitfalls, red flags and excitement of anything, that's what we're doing this morning. Because I don't think there's a clear answer at the moment, and anybody who is telling you that there is a false prophet. They're a liar, they're a fake, they're a fraud, because they've got absolutely no idea what's going on. Hardly anybody does. Nathan, welcome to the Members Club. I don't mind but don't want to have anything to do with PSG, but that will be unlikely, says Duzan. Publicly, we won't have anything to do with PSG, but what I'm talking about is if you're owned by two entities from Qatar that ultimately answer to Al Thani, then ultimately you've got a scenario where he might not be on paper for either club, but what's his preference? If it's Man United, we're laughing. If we get bought by Qatar and Man United are the priority, PSG are in trouble. But I think there is a conflict of interest there, and I think everybody knows there is, but I think ultimately it's people just want to sweep it under the carpet because they just want Man United to be bought by billionaires. I mean, I'll put it like this way. Would you rather, if the reported fund that the Qatar Investment Authority have is £450 billion, here's an experiment for you. This is my point. Mark, whoever takes over, there will be concerns. The main thing we need is the stadium, training ground updating and the infrastructure sorting out, says Paul. Love from Australia, says Jack. And Man United should be better than selling their souls, says Robert McCormack. Unfortunately, I agree with you, Robert. Not unfortunately, I agree with you. I do agree with you that we shouldn't be selling our soul. But unfortunately, Robert, that bus left the station 17 years ago when we got sold to the Glazers. Like, I think the selling our soul argument is redundant. And I would agree with the people who want Qatar or billionaires, because the soul was sold from football a long time ago, and Man United sold their soul the minute they let greedy Glazers who don't even like football buy us on debt. That was when the soul went. So we can't pretend that we've got a soul to sell, because we haven't. The only soul of this football club is you, the fans. Which would you prefer? I'm just going to, and this is very important to what I want to talk about. Which would you prefer? Qatar, 450 billion, or Dubai, 500 billion wealth fund? What would you prefer? Would you prefer Qatar or would you prefer Dubai? Because straight away I would prefer Dubai. If I had to choose between those, I would choose Dubai, because they don't already own a football club. Saudi Arabia, Newcastle, Abu Dhabi, Man City, Qatar, PSG. So I'm not obsessed with Qatar, and if I could choose, I'd go with Dubai, because the Qatar PSG thing concerns me. That's what I'm trying to explain here. The PSG Qatar thing concerns me because quite clearly it's very obvious that the same people are going to be behind both ownerships. They can separate the two companies, but it will be the same people behind it, and I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not comfortable with PSG and Man United basically being owned by the same people. It's just odd. So I would prefer Dubai in that scenario because it's just something very separate. I want Manchester United to be the life and soul of the party. I don't want it to be, we own PSG and Man United. Basically, you're becoming part of an investment portfolio. Man United would become part of an investment portfolio in my mind because Qatar would own PSG and they'd own Man United. And ultimately, somebody just said there, what's sports washing, Mark? Well, I'm going to read you the definition of sports washing. So sports washing is a term used to describe the practice of individuals, groups, corporations or governments using sports to improve reputations tarnished by wrongdoing. It's a form of propaganda. Sports washing can be accomplished through hosting sports events, purchasing or sponsoring sporting teams, or participating in sport. That is what sports washing is described as. Now, I think that's quite... If you're labelled as someone who's sports washing, that's quite an offensive term, isn't it? And, it's certainly one I'm not going to use in relation to any other Premier League club when Manchester United could be owned by very similar billionaires. But I think sports washing is very separate. My definition of sports washing, and it's obviously not accurate, is that, countries, individuals who have done very, very bad things and stand for bad things basically use their wealth to make people like them by buying teams like, buying football clubs or sporting events so that they can appear to be generous. And, it's cover up, isn't it? That's what sports washing is. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about if Qatar own PSG and Manchester United, we're not exclusive. That's their big appeal then, is it? Qatar, we own Man United and we own PSG. We're owned by Qatar, who own PSG. I want Man United to be the focal point. If Qatar was selling PSG and we were going to be their sole club, happy days. But what's next? What's next? Will they find another company to buy Real Madrid? You've got to ask yourself these questions, surely. Mark, I believe everyone would choose moral ownership after 17 years of the Glazers. Ultimately, as fans, we've got no choice, says Stevie J. Mark, you do realise Dubai had to be bailed out by the Emirates a few years ago, right? Sorry, but you need to look close. Remy, I'm not saying we should be bought by Dubai. I'm saying I'd rather we weren't being bought by Qatar because I want United to be the life and soul of the party. I was using Dubai as an example. I'm not comfortable with the PSG thing. It's my personal choice. Don't want Qatar. We're Manchester United, not Qatar FC. We shouldn't be owned by a country, and especially not one that owns PSG, says Ori. Imagine the United PSG Champions League final. We'd love to be there, but it just wouldn't be the same, says Dorian. And Dubai is intrinsically linked with Abu Dhabi, and the ultimate families are related. Dubai was bailed out by Abu Dhabi in 2008. I'd rather Sir Jim, says Div. And I think, look, the funny thing is, I predicted this, and we predicted this as a community 2 months ago. This is going to divide the fan base because everyone's going to have an opinion. Now, you know me, in the main, I'll have an opinion, but I'll respect everybody else's opinion because ultimately I'm not in the business of trying to influence others' opinion. I've always said from day one, if you disagree with something I say, then the show and the channel is achieving its goal of generating people who can think for themselves, especially on such an important topic as football. And you must have your own opinion, and it could be really basic and shallow, or it could be really deep. Like, there'll be people out there who know way more about this topic than me, and there'll be people who know next to nothing. You have to have your own opinions, of course you do. But we are entering this big week now, and Man United are playing Barcelona on Thursday, and we're talking about these bids because the bids are going in on Friday. These soft bids are going in on Friday, and we're going to find out who they are. Akrif, too many people are going off on the Dubai example. It was an example. It's not saying we want to be bought by Dubai. It's just about, I think people want we want the billionaire because we need it, but we want the billionaire to be focused solely on Man United. We don't want to be part of a country's investment portfolio, and that's what's going to happen here. Qatar Sports Authority own PSG. Qatar Investment Authority own Man United. Qatar own Man United and PSG. That's the bottom line. Are you comfortable with that? If you are, well done. I'm not. But I think they will own us. I'm not saying they're going to be bad owners. I'm not saying they're going to take dividends. I'm not saying we're not going to win the Champions League and the Premier League and everything else. Probably will. But ideally, I'd rather we weren't owned by a country that owns PSG as well, because you are part of a portfolio, and you know what rivals are going to do. We've got a world of that to come. You want to, you want to be an individual. You don't want to be part of the crowd. If we were bought by big wealth, what would you want them to do first? Do you think any of the new owners are more likely to be the best for the club, says Billy? We'll talk about that in a minute, Billy, because it fits into something else. Will all this matter when we're lifting titles at Old Trafford, says Connor? Yeah, it will matter to some people, mate, because it matters to some Man City fans. I know some Man City fans who, if you get them down the pub and give them a couple of drinks, they'll sit there and say they'd wish they'd won titles in a different way, because they do feel that ultimately it's great, but there is a bit of a hollow feel that they went from nothing to suddenly winning titles because they had the cheat code. There are some people, you celebrate it, but deep down you know. Look at Newcastle when the rumours started. Now look at their fan base, more together than ever. People need to realise our current country isn't much better, says Dan Watson. Yeah, I think you misunderstand the Manchester United fan base, mate, Dan. The Manchester United fan base is not like Newcastle's fan base. We've not been starved. I mean, I think the last trophy Newcastle won was in the 60s, and I think they got it off a magazine, didn't they? I mean, they've not had any success. Manchester United's a very different football club to any football club. There are hardcore fans in this football club who will not like certain ownerships, and I don't think we'll all be holding hands in the next 2 years, singing REM's "Shiny Happy People Holding Hands." We will always have division in our fan base, because there is always going to be people who have very strong opinions that are different to each other. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. I think, democracy is a good thing. Ultimately, Glazers will decide via the highest bidder. Don't think Sir Jim hasn't got the money to run us to complete and pay off the debt, says Daniel Kirk. No, and again, as we've said all along, the Glazers will decide on this. Mark, could Bernardo Silva be a good option for United? Damon, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? One, we're not talking about nonsense like that, and two, that's never going to happen. So no, that won't happen. Interestingly, David Beckham has been linked to some of these bids. I think you'd be absolutely stupid if you weren't Qatar or Sir Jim Radcliffe or anybody else to try and get David Beckham involved, because David Beckham basically won the UK the Olympics in 2012, didn't he? I think David Beckham's one of the few Manchester United legends that retains, universal respect amongst the fan base, because he doesn't really say much, does he? He's not on Sky every week. He's not on BT every week. He's he's somebody that's really appreciated and respected in the fan base. And if he was behind a bid, I think that would influence fans. So I'm not surprised that David Beckham has been asked to back various bids for Manchester United, and that wouldn't just be Qatar. I think that would be other bids as well. As we understand it, David Beckham has said no in relation to all of them at this time. It doesn't mean any other ex-player hasn't said no. I said this a couple of weeks ago. There are certain ex-players that if they were behind any bid, it would turn my stomach, because I don't think they're capable, and I think people know what individual I'm talking about straight away. There's certainly one that springs to mind, which I think would. He'd jump behind any bid for a few clicks and likes, and it ain't Gary Neville. So I don't really want any ex-players involved in it. David Beckham's probably about the only one that I could stomach, but I don't think we need that. I think the most important thing is, and fair play to those ex-players if they do get involved. It's a good bit of publicity for them to have some power and hold on owners who own Man United. What an opportunity, which is the scary thing. Because there's no ex-player I've listened to in the last 10 years that I would want anywhere near the decision-making of Manchester United. And I don't think we need that. I'm more concerned about Sir Jim having backing from the bank who were financing the Super League, says Joshua. And I think Sir Jim is more likely to want to put us in the Super League, says David. And not so long our biggest worry was the Glazers staying forever. We just need to make sure we don't jump out the frying pan, says Glenny Boy. And I like the way that the chat's developing there, because in no way, I'm not talking about Dennis Irwin, in no way am I sat here saying Qatar is bad. That's not what it is. I think they probably are going to... as I say, from what I've heard, they probably are going to be our new owners. I'm not against that. As I've said before, personally, I let you lot pick your sides, because I don't need to pick my side, because I don't know. I'm not walking into that bloody witch's house in the forest. I'm not Hansel and I'm not Gretel. I'm not walking in. It doesn't matter how attractive the room is, I'm not going in, because exteriors can be deceiving. God knows, imagine if I went, oil me up, I want Qatar to own Man United, and then 6 months later we're in the Super League and it's a bloody nightmare, and everyone will go, look at, yeah, we've all made those mistakes before. Ollie's at the wheel, that's the biggest mistake I've ever made, and we all did that. So, excuse me if I want to just be a little bit more. Yeah, I want to see what happens. I'm not going to start celebrating who owns Man United. I want to see what they do, because Rome wasn't built in a day, and United won't be rebuilt in a day. I'll celebrate the Glazers leaving. I'll be excited by who gets hold of us and what they've got to say, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and ultimately we've got no say in this. But I like what people are saying in the chat. We've spoken about, personally, I don't like the idea of a country owning Manchester United that also owns PSG. I don't like that. You become part of an investment portfolio. I don't want Man United to be part of an investment portfolio. I don't want the rest of the world go, you're owned by Qatar, you're just PSG's bitch. That's what people will say to wind us up, and there'll be nothing we can say back, because we will be owned by Qatar. They may be separate entities, but we will be owned by Qatar, who are also own PSG. I'd rather that wasn't the case. I want to be owned by such and such, who only owns Man United, but that's idealistic. Ultimately, being owned by Qatar is going to be better than the Glazers, I think. Would you want Richard Arnold and John Murtagh gone when the new owners come, and who would you bring in instead, says A11. And Dubai and Abu Dhabi are not the same. Dubai company, Emirates Airlines are main sponsors of Arsenal, but I'm sure investment will come from different companies, says Rajisha. Well, this is an interesting point that was just made. This is one of the things I really wanted to get into on the show this morning, actually. Let me just put the quote up for you. So this came in from Mike Keegan. If the Qatar bid wins, which it is expected to win, they would evaluate all departments before making changes. Those there would be given opportunity to impress. Where investment is needed, it would be provided on and off the field. So this is... See, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. And the reason I don't like this is because people will say, well, everyone deserves a second chance. There's many people in that football club who've already had their second chance. And this could just be a story. But I would hope, really, really hope, that whoever is going to buy Manchester United are a little bit more switched on than I want to own Man United and I'm rich. That is not just what we need. The three principles I've had, we definitely need somebody who's super wealthy. We have to have somebody who's super wealthy, because we've got to rebuild the stadium, rebuild the infrastructure and spend on the squad. So you definitely need super wealthy. People can't be buying this club on loans. So you've got to have super wealthy, yeah? You've also got to have super intelligent. People who are obsessed with making us the best and know where the football club's gone wrong over the last decade. You need those two things. You need a few other things, but you need the money and you need the knowledge from day one. That to me reads like the money, but not the knowledge. That to me reads like, we've got all the money, let's see how it goes with what we've already got. If you're buying Man United and you don't know that the last 10 years has been absolutely terrible, that worries me. You should, I'm not going to name names, you all know them anyway, but the new owners should not be walking into Man United and going, let's carry on with what we've got, impress me. That should not be happening. That would be worrying. Look at Newcastle. Newcastle, they came in very quickly. They changed their manager. They've changed the infrastructure. They've changed their recruitment. They've changed the sporting director. They've done it all very, very quickly because they know it needed to be done. Whoever's buying Man United, I refuse to believe this, that they're going to come in and give everybody a chance. And if they are going to give everybody a chance, why would you give everybody a chance? Do you not know what's gone on? Prime example, last summer, we spent all summer leaking out to the press that we don't want to buy anybody until we bought Frankie de Jong. And we're not worried about the hysteria on Twitter or when the transfer deadline day opens. We've got a plan and we're completely confident with it. And ultimately, we're not going to buy anyone until we do buy Frankie de Jong. That cost us 35 million quid, and that cost us being able to buy João Felix or Gakpo a few weeks ago. Because instead of buying Anthony in June, we bought him at the end of the transfer window and we paid £35 million more. And we paid a player that was on 20 grand a week, 200 grand a week. Those people are still at the club. You want to give them another chance. That's just one example as well. These people paid £80 million for Harry Maguire. These people gave Alexis Sanchez, the biggest wage in Premier League history. These people are still at the club. You can sit and tell me, oh, Mark, stop being horrible, they deserve a second chance. I'll sit here and tell you, I've sat here for the last few years with all of you scrutinising these bad decisions. They've already had second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth chance. They're not good enough. We had to bring an external lawyer in, Michael Keane's brother, to help on transfers in early July, last summer. This ain't speculation, people. This is cold, harsh facts. I already know, and I would send this message to anybody who's trying to buy Man United. Speak to people. I'll give you my number, but there's other people. Speak to people about how this club's been run and what the fans think about how this club's been run in the last 10 years. And don't for 1 minute think that coming in and giving some of these people a second chance is the way to go. They will burn your money in the bin. You may as well put it in the bin and give them a lighter. They will burn your money in the bin. We have a reputation that we have to restore. When I think about Manchester United, I know what the reputation of Manchester United is because I know a few agents, I know a few journalists, and they say that Man United's reputation worldwide is fantastic, but in the transfer industry, it is a joke. You know you can rip them off, you know they're crap at selling players, and you know that if you're in a fight to buy a player with Man United, you'll win. That's not going to change just because we're owned by Qatar or Sir Jim. You change that reputation by bringing in people who will change that reputation. If we've got £300 million to spend in the summer, but you're sending the same people to go and deal with the clubs, those clubs are dealing with the same people. They don't. In fact, they'll rinse us even more. I mean, if Ajax got 85 million euros for bloody Anthony, imagine if we go back to try and buy another player from them this summer and we're owned by Qatar. They'll go, right, 100 million. You've got to get the specialists in from day one. And it does concern me a bit. It's only a paper story, but I think it's a good story because anybody who thinks, yeah, let's give all this lot another chance, our reputation's not going to change because we're owned by Qatar. In fact, they'll want more money out of us. You need to bring lions in, not pussycats. Mark, what's the latest on the player ratings issue for the next game, says Chris. Welcome to the Members Club, Steve. And what a joke, Richard and John need to go. They're absolutely abysmal. Do you think them two clowns would give Ranić a second chance under new owners? No, says Raz. On the members section, we will still have a player ratings after the Barcelona game. We discussed it this week. So there was a few problems with the player ratings after the game against Leeds at the weekend where we had 16,000 votes and I'm giving 6 and 7s and everybody's getting a 4.2 and we just won 2-0. So there was clearly an issue where we were being targeted by Prats. So effectively what's going to happen on Thursday is that we will still have the player rating system for everybody to vote on, but the one I will be using on screen will be a separate link that is given to members 20 minutes before the end. So the members section will be used for the aggregated bit because obviously if you're a member you're more likely to be actually engaged in the community that we're building. So we will still have a public player ratings that you can do, but if you're a member, yours is the one that will go on the screen. And I'm apologetic about that, but it's not us who've ruined it, and this is what happens when idiots try and ruse it. So there you go. Ultimately, the visual experience will still be the same. I will get a player rating, and there will be a selection of members who give their honest player ratings, which will be better than just reading the Manchester Evening News player ratings or just mine exclusively. Habs, welcome to the Members Club. John Murter out, Arnold out. I'm not going to talk about exclusively who I would get out, but ultimately, Ralph Rangnick's being linked with Liverpool as their director of football. I think we had a director of football, and we let him go. But look, these are all things to learn. Remember I said this, and look, I might be wrong on this, and I might be right, but ultimately, remember we've spoken about this. When it comes to the ownership, welcome to Members Club D, when it comes to the ownership of Manchester United, we're not going to get new owners and then, have a big party outside Old Trafford. That won't happen. There'll be a lot of fans who are excited. The Christmas Eve effect. It'll be like Christmas Eve because it'll be like, the Glazers are gone. What are we going to get? But it's going to be weeks, months before we start to see what this club is all about. And there's a lot of decisions that need to be made. I mean, there's a ridiculous notion that some people think that potentially new owners could come in and sack the manager because they want their own person. I can't see what level of turbo prat would you have to be to buy Man United and sack Erik ten Hag? That won't happen. But other changes need to be made, and if we got bought by Sir Jim, let's say Sir Jim Radcliffe bought Man United, and he kept the same board and he kept the same recruitment, you'd question that owner, and you'd go, things can go wrong under a new owner. I think everybody knows that. The grass isn't always greener. It will be, because the Glazers want us to take us for money. But I think that what I want to see in an owner will be different to what you want to see in an owner. But I want to see an owner that comes in with a lot of money, but also a lot of ideas. I don't want the status quo to stay. I don't. I want to see... I'm happy with Ten Hag. I'm happy with the coaching setup, and I'm happy with what he's doing with the squad. From Ten Hag down, I trust Ten Hag. From Ten Hag up, in a footballing sense and financial sense, I think there's so much that needs to change at that club. So much needs to change. That's where this club's gone wrong over the last decade. And there's some fantastic people that work in that football club that I wouldn't get rid of either. Social media, marketing, communications, whatever. That they're not involved in decisions around brands and recruitment and contracts and stuff like that. That's where United need to change. That's where we need to change. And if somebody buys our club and isn't thinking that needs to change, look, if I said to you, you're the new owner of Man United, what are the 3 things you want to do straight away as the owner? This is a great bit. This is great. Get involved in this. Patrick says, are we at full strength for Barca and who's out? Well, I'm doing my preview tonight at 7, mate. So we'll go through that 7 o'clock live together tonight. If I said to you, what are the 3 things you want? And you're going to have hundreds of things. Hundreds and hundreds of things. Of course you are. But if I said to you, what are the 3 things you would do first in the door at Manchester United, what would you do? Then I would be... I would say this. Day 1. Thanks for everything you've done, Richard Arnold and John Murtagh and your recruitment team and a load of other people. I mean, I feel sorry for Richard Arnold and John Murtagh because they're 2 very visible names at Man United, but they represent probably at least 10 people who work with them. So when I say Richard Arnold and John Murtagh, I'm probably talking about 30 positions. But I would walk in and say, Richard Arnold, I want a new CEO. I want the best CEO football can give me. And unfortunately, you're not it. So thanks for all your work, and I wish you all the best. And I'd say the same to John Murtagh. I want the best sporting recruitment department that we've got, and you're not it. And thank you very much for what you've done. You're gone. And straight away, what that does as a new owner is it refreshes, it excites, and it tells everyone else in the club that I mean business and that I'm ruthless and I'm aggressive for success. If I walk in and go, oh, we're not going to make any changes, let's just carry on. Let's just be happy. And on Fridays you can wear whatever clothes you like, and we're all going to Nando's. It's weak. It's weak. And weakness is not just being taken for a ride. Weakness is lack of knowledge. We've all had owners or bosses who come in. They want to be your mate. Yeah, I'm all about fun. Look at David Brent in The Office. Yeah, it's all about fun here. It's all about having a laugh. It's great to watch because it's car crash. It's comedy. But there's no knowledge there. Knowledge is power. Respect is being able to make good decisions. So the first thing I would do is I'd walk into that football club and I would remove the people around Richard Arnold and him and the people around John Murtagh and him, and straight away bring in the best recruitment team and the best CEO I can get. That's point 1. That's straight away I'm doing that. Straight away. Because I know I support Man United, and I know that Man United over the last 10 years has failed in those 2 areas massively. The second thing I'm doing is I'm getting the best solution I can and the quickest solution I can to make Old Trafford as close to 100,000 capacity best stadium in the world. Now, there might be a big decision to be made there because somebody might say it's going to take 10 years, whereas I can build you a new stadium in 5 years and it'll be even better. Well, that needs fan consultation. If somebody says to me you can have a brand new 100,000 seater stadium next to Old Trafford in 5 years and it'll be the best in the world, or you can try and build Old Trafford, it was going to take you 10 years and it won't be that good, well, that needs to be debated with the fans, doesn't it? Because I want Old Trafford. I don't want a new stadium. So that's the second thing I would do. The third thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get Erik ten Hag in. I'm going to say infrastructure, facilities, this team. What are we doing? Let's get on with it. And that's the 3 things I'm going to do. Very, very simple. And I'm going to do those three things before I've even bought the club, I know those three things need doing. And they're my three principles and they're my three priorities. What I don't want is someone walking in going, oh yeah, we'll sort the stadium out. We'll keep everyone that's already here. And we'll talk about signings. Because if you've got a bad recruitment team, you're going to make Ten Hag's job a lot harder because he's going to get less players and less quality, and he's going to miss out on players. Erik Ten Hag, to be successful at Manchester United, has to be able to bring in as many quality players as he can. If he hasn't got the best recruitment team ahead of him, the best director of football, the best CEO, you can give him 300 million quid, but he might get 4 players, of which only 1 is his first choice and the other 3 are choice 2 and 3. If you give him the best recruitment team and you give him 300 million, he'll get 4 first choice players. And that's the simple equation. People think give Ten Hag £300 million and we'll dominate English football. No. You've got to give Ten Hag the money and you've got to give him the people. And at the moment, he hasn't got the money and he hasn't got the people. But in the summer, he might have the money but not have the people. You give him the best recruitment team, the best CEO, and that's what the new owners should be looking to do straight away. That 300 million is worth a lot more. 300 million on players is... We've wasted $1 billion in the last 10 years. You can throw it on the bonfire. It doesn't matter. Money without quality is irrelevant. And as I say, when Ten Hag's given 300 or 200 million, you've got to get him his first choices. There's no point in him saying, I want Jude Bellingham, and you give him Declan Rice. Declan Rice might work, but it ain't Jude Bellingham. You've got to go and get him the best. And I think this is where some fans go wrong. They just think a few hundred million is going to solve the problem. It's a very competitive world out there. Chelsea have gone and got Enzo Fernandez. Ten Hag wanted him. Nunez plays for Liverpool. Ten Hag wanted him. Gakpo plays for Liverpool. Ten Hag wanted him. João Felix is now on loan at Chelsea. Ten Hag wanted him. £300 million in his pocket is no good if they can't get the players he wants because the people recruiting aren't good enough. Sarvesh says PSG is not really being run efficiently. Players have power and haven't won the Champions League. I'm also not sure how they recruit. And I think Sarvesh makes a bloody terrifying point there. Probably the best point ever, and I didn't make it. What about that? Has anybody ever thought about that? We're throwing opinions around, we're throwing conversations around, and we're all loving it. PSG is basically owned by Mbappe. They gave him a massive contract and power on recruitment. That's what PSG is. They sack their manager every couple of years, sometimes less than that. PSG haven't won the Champions League. Are PSG a model that you want Man United to be? And PSG are owned by Qatar. So those decision makers... I mean, look, whatever you think about Abu Dhabi and Man City, I know they've not won the Champions League, but you know, there's a prime example there. Maybe Qatar does equal a lot of money, but it doesn't necessarily mean the club gets run well. Would you want a situation like PSG where you don't win the... You know, we want to win the Premier League, but we never win it. We're constantly changing the manager, and we're basically keeping players by chucking ridiculous money at them and giving them power on transfers. I don't want that. So there's a lot. This is what I mean. When you read things about they want to keep everybody in place and give them another chance, money doesn't always mean quality. And that's something that if Qatar wants to buy Man United, they should be listening to views like this. We don't want what you've done with PSG because it's not worked. You've given too much power to the wrong people. Also, we don't want you to give certain people in the club another chance because they've had enough chances. They need to go straight away. You need to bring the best in. My worry about Qatar is the way they have run PSG compared to City and Newcastle have been run, says AK. I think I'd never even thought of that. I'd never thought about how badly PSG's actually been run. Do you think Sir Jim can compete with the Middle Eastern bids and how now is the time to be owned by these super rich countries, says Luke? Will the majority of the Prem be owned by these people in the 5 to 10 years, says Luke? Lukey Wines. Just to play devil's advocate, don't actually think but could Arnold and Murta do better without the chains off the Glazers, says Daniel. No, because Daniel, I think that's a really ridiculously naive point. Because, and I don't mean ridiculously stupid on your part. I just think it's naive because it's very easy just to paint the Glazers as the villains because they are. But what about the Glazers is taking the chains off for John Murtagh. He spent £85 million on Anthony and gave him 200 grand a week. Where's the restrictions from the Glazers there? If the Glazers were so restrictive, they would have said, you're not having any more than 60 million and you're only paying him 100 grand a week. These people, Murtagh, Arnold, Woodward, Judge, as bad as the Glazers are, they've been given the chains off. And they're still bad at recruitment. So I think it could work the other way. If you had really rich owners who give them even more money, they'll probably spend even more money badly, you know? That's just my opinion. They've apparently got some breaking news coming in here. Let's have a quick look. The show's flown by this morning. I can't see anything breaking, so if anybody would like to tell me what it is that's breaking, that would be important. Jesse Marsh is meant to be becoming the Southampton manager, but I don't think we're really interested in that. Let's have a quick look. Make sure you smash the like on the video, by the way. Bottom right hand corner to subscribe. I am going to do the Barcelona preview tonight at 7 o'clock. Yeah, I can't see any breaking news coming in. Like I said, I don't actually think that at all or agree with that, says Daniel. Yeah. Rather have the actual status quo than the current one, says Cyril. And yeah. Chunky's enjoying it. I enjoy it because it's a conversation, isn't it? People are saying Guardian, but I don't know what the Guardian is saying. You know, can you tell us what they're saying? Like, we're having a live show, there's probably 15,000 people watching, and Breaking News Guardian doesn't offer anything. So unless anyone's actually going to tell us what's happening, I can't go searching around Twitter. If it's about Elon Musk, 4.5 million bid, that was in the Mail, and it was a very, very, very tentative story. What I would say is that the general consensus is that Qatar will win this bid. I've seen a lot of people changing their minds over the last week or so. I don't know whether you've noticed it. I certainly have, because I have to keep my finger on the pulse. But I almost need a word, because I think mainstream media makes people not think about, you know, Man United websites, other channels, Twitter accounts, etc. The collective, I'm going to call it. So mainstream media, journalists, and, you know, other United websites, channels, etc. I think that the majority of them have basically been very pro Sir Jim. And I've noticed over the last week, because Qatar's coming more prominent, they've completely turned their opinion and sort of been a little bit more pro Qatar. Yet they've been adamant Sir Jim for weeks. I just think that's a dangerous game to play. As you know, my opinion is I don't really have... It's odd. I've never really been in this situation, and I'm sure some of you agree with me. When people say, why don't you say oil me up, or why don't you back Sir Jim? Because I don't know what's behind it. You know, it's like a mask. It might be really appealing, but when they take the mask off, it might be really ugly. I don't know what's behind it. And ultimately, I'm not going to have any say in it anyway. So why would I jump on a side that I don't know what it's about, and also I won't choose it? What if I was like, yeah, I want Sir Jim. Go on, he's the best. Local lad, Man United fan. Go on, Sir Jim. And then Qatar buyers, we're looking idiot anyway. Or Sir Jim buys us and goes, I want a Super League and we're in debt. They're looking idiot. So that's why I'm not going to make my mind up. I'm as excited as anybody else. I'm as nervous as anybody else. And I have my concerns and pros as much as anybody else. I think I'll do my deciding when we know who's going to buy us and what they do over the next 6 months. I mean, as I say, I think maybe there's this ill-judged opinion that when we know who the new owner is, it's all happy. That's when the work starts. Like, what's the transfer budget for Ten Hag in the summer? How quickly are you going to build the stadium? Are you going to clear out, certain areas within Man United's recruitment department and on the board, or are you going to stick with everything that we've got? You know, and also somebody just said it in the chat there. I'm going to read your super chat, Glennie, but someone said it in the chat there, and they're absolutely right. What are these new owners going to do to try and make themselves popular with the fans? Are they going to get, you know, ex-players on the board and Sir Alex on the board? Well, is that... I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think Sir Alex Ferguson should be left to retire. He's not been involved in football, you know, for nearly 10 years. And most of our ex-players have exposed their football knowledge weakness week in, week out for the last 10 years as well. I mean, if it was down to them, if we'd have been bought by Qatar when Ollie was struggling, Ollie would still be in charge now. So I want specialists. I would rather have, than an ex-player, I would rather have a CEO who's run one of the biggest clubs in England, well, it could be England, but one of the biggest clubs in Europe in the last 5 years, and is considered one of the best in the game. I mean, funnily enough, we had someone like that. His name was Ralph Rangnick. He was going to be the guy that was going to be our director of football. And stupidly, we sacked him because he didn't do well as a coach, which was never the role he should have been having anyway. Off subject, but I saw Sky Sports advert where Gary said he's mesmerised by Ten Hag, and it made me smile because they all wanted Poch. Yeah, but people are allowed to change their mind, Glenn. They're allowed to change their mind. I mean, we as fans can always sit there and gloat that we wanted Ten Hag, and there was no ex-player, there was no media outlet. We all know there was no newspaper, there was no journalist, there was no ex-player that wanted Ten Hag, and yet 99% of you did. Sometimes this is what I mean. In fact, that's a great example. This is why I don't want ex-players or, you know, industry experts involved in running Man United, because I think the experts are probably you're more experts than they are. I wouldn't. It's very easy to put Qatar, Saudi, and Dubai in the same bracket. However, they are very different, says Eamon. Well, of course they are. Yeah, of course they are. They're different countries. They're different places. If buy a Tesla if Elon owns the club, Mark, says Luke. Look, I just want to look. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about this, of course, and it's going to be up and down. And I think that ultimately, I appreciate everybody's comments this morning and anybody who's not watching, because I think everything we've spoken about in this show is valid. You know, not everything is shiny, happy people holding hands. You know, there is no person that's going to buy Man United at the moment that's publicly able to unite this fan base, because we don't know enough. But remember this, we only know two entities, Sir Jim Radcliffe and Qatar, and people are, you know, playing them off against each other, you know, trying to find positives and negatives in both. There are another 3 interested parties at least who might put a bid in. There may be a bid that we're not aware about that's perfect for us. I mean, I don't mind what's happened with Chelsea. I don't mind what Todd Bowley's done with Chelsea. Some people go, I don't want Americans. I mean, I think that's, you know, someone was on about Islam being Islamophobic. That's xenophobic. You know, I don't care if the new owners of Man United are American or Chinese or Scottish. I don't mind what their nationality is. It's those principles. You've got to bring money. You've got to make changes straight away around the infrastructure and people who are in that football club. And we've got to build a stadium. Those 3 things, it doesn't matter where they're from. And I think that the way, although it's been a bit interesting to watch, I think the way Chelsea are doing things, I wouldn't mind that happening at Man United. So, look, we'll see what happens. I'm sure there's a lot to happen that is going to happen, and there's a lot of updates to come. But as I say, I ain't playing Hansel and Gretel. I'm not walking into a gingerbread house because it looks nice. I want to know what's inside before I go in, because once that door slams shut, we are screwed. We really are. Yeah. Not hearing anything about Elon Musk. I think the stories are pretty tentative at the moment, but it would certainly be interesting. I will say this. I think it'd be a very, very, very interesting. And I always thought this about Sky when they wanted to buy us in the early noughties. Early 90s. Was it early? No, all the early noughties. It would be a very interesting ownership model, and it will happen at some point. An Amazon or an Apple or that sort of an entity will buy a football club. Would you prefer that over what we've got at the moment? Again, I don't really know what that would look like, but I certainly think an Amazon owning Man United would be interesting, because it's a business, a very successful business, that would probably create a football department to run Man United and would probably bring in specialists to do it. But whether that's possible in the next few days or not, I don't know. I wish there was a Mark Goldbridge bid incoming. I really do. I really do wish I had that sort of money, because I think, like you, I'd have a very clear idea of what we need to do. And any bid with me involved in it would involve, rebuilding the stadium, giving Ten Hag the support he needs, not just financially, but also the people above him who know what they're doing. My first role as owner of Manchester United would be to make sure that we restored our reputation in the transfer industry, so that agents and other clubs not only respected us but feared us again. That when we started inquiring for one of their players, like Osimhen at Napoli, they're not just laughing at us going, yeah, he's not for sale and we want £150 million if you do. I want us to be feared and respected in that area again, because we're not. We're just not. So that would be one of the things I'd be looking to do. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you subscribe, bottom right hand corner, and smash a like. It's Champions League night tonight, so we're not live at 8 o'clock. We'll be live at 7 o'clock. We're going to do a Barcelona preview, and we'll probably be back live at 2 o'clock with you as well. Take care, everyone. Have a good day. Fantastic show. Loving the conversations. Of course, we're not all going to agree, but we should all, expect... I think we should all expect Qatar to buy Man United, because that's the big rumour at the moment. But look, things can change. But at this moment in time, that looks like it's going to be the option. Personally, it's not. I think they tick a lot of the boxes in relation to wealth. I'd rather we weren't bought by a country that already owns PSG. I want us to be the star of the party. I don't want us to be sharing it as an investment group. But look, doesn't mean it won't be a good ownership. Doesn't mean it won't work for us. Doesn't mean it's not the right choice. Manchester United are set to complete the signing of young talent striker Gabriel Biancheri from Cardiff, a 4-year pro contract, just waiting for FIFA approval. He's 19. No, he's not. 17. 17. Could be 16. So there you go. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care.